Hey guys, tonight we're going to dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and ease into a story that proves money and power don't buy happiness. Or sanity. For that matter, we're going to talk about a man, an emperor, who had everything the world at his feet, the glory of Rome at his command and the lives of millions in his hands. But he was miserable, he was lonely, he was terrified. Tonight, we're going to crawl into the lavish but deeply unsettling world of Nero, a man born into a life that was set to suck from the very beginning. You'll see that the drama of your own family dinner table is nothing compared to what this guy went through. And honestly, you probably wouldn't have survived the family brunch, let alone the imperial throne. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And as you get settled, let me know where you're listening from tonight and what time it is for you. It's always wild to think we're all listening to the same story from different corners of the world. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your first memory isn't a warm one. You're a child. A little boy named Lucius Domitius Ahenobarbus, and you're surrounded by cold marble and the low murmur of servants. Your mother is Agrippina the Younger, a woman whose name you will eventually learn to fear more than any barbarian general. She's ambitious, calculating, and ruthless. Your father, a man you barely knew, was Gnaeus Domitius Ahenobarbus, a consul whose character, as described by the historian Suetonius, was, in every aspect of his life, a hateful one. He was a man with a brutal temper and a cruel streak, and you were born into his world of entitlement and viciousness. Your early life is a constant, low-level thrum of anxiety. You're a pawn in a game you don't understand, a child surrounded by adults who see you not as a son, but as a tool. Your mother, Agrippina, is the daughter of Germanicus, a hero of Rome. She's a member of the Julio-Claudian dynasty, a lineage that connects you to Augustus himself. This isn't a blessing, it's a curse. It puts a target on your back from the moment you are born. Every cough, every stumble, every illness is a potential plot. You're always being watched, always being analyzed. You learn to hide your true feelings, to be a small, quiet, and obedient boy. But underneath that quiet obedience, there's a seed of something else, a deep-seated fear and a hunger for control. You don't want to be a tool anymore. You want to be the one holding the hammer. Your father dies when you're 3. And for a brief time, you and your mother are in a precarious position. But Agrippina is not a woman who stays in a precarious position for long. She uses her charm, her connections, and her ruthless intelligence to get back into the heart of the Roman court. And she does it by marrying your great-uncle, the Emperor Claudius. Suddenly, you're not just a boy with a fancy name, you're the stepson of the emperor. Your name is changed to Nero Claudius Caesar Drusus Germanicus, a mouthful that is also a heavy burden. It connects you to the imperial line, a line that is as much a source of danger as it is a source of power. Your childhood is a gilded cage. You're given the best tutors, the finest clothes, the most exquisite food, but you are not free. Your mother, Agrippina, is always there, a shadow in the corner of every room. She controls your tutors, she controls your schedule. She controls who you can and cannot talk to. She is preparing you for one thing and one thing only: to be emperor. And to be emperor, you must be a man who can be controlled. A man who will listen to his mother. She is shaping you, molding you, turning you into a weapon she can use. But weapons, as she will soon discover, have a funny way of turning on their wielder. The psychological toll of this upbringing is immense. You are never allowed to be a child. Your every action, every word is scrutinized. You are taught to be a prince, a future ruler of Rome, but you are never taught to be a person. You are an object, a vessel for your mother's ambition. You are lonely, isolated, and terrified of making a mistake. You learn that power is a fragile thing, a thing that can be taken away in an instant. You learn that love is a transaction, a tool to be used, and you learn that the only person you can truly trust is yourself. This is a life of constant, low-level dread. You see how your mother manipulates people, how she uses her charm and her ruthlessness to get what she wants. You see how your great-uncle Claudius, the emperor, is a weak, paranoid man, easily controlled by those around him. You see how the Roman court is a viper's nest of intrigue, where every smile is a potential dagger, every compliment a potential poison. You are learning the hard, cynical lessons of power, lessons that will shape you into the man you will one day become. Historians still debate the true nature of Nero's childhood. Was it a calculated, brutal form of psychological conditioning? Or was it simply the norm for a Roman noble of that era? The truth is likely somewhere in the middle. Roman society was a brutal one, and power was a zero-sum game. To be a prince was to be a pawn, and Nero was a masterfully played one. But the intensity of his mother's ambition, and the sheer number of murders that surrounded his ascent to power, suggests that his childhood was particularly traumatic. One day, you're a boy, a pawn in a power struggle between your mother and Claudius's son, Britannicus. The next, your mother has had Claudius poisoned, and you are being paraded before the Praetorian Guard, hailed as the new emperor. You are just 17 years old. You are a child with the weight of the world on your shoulders, and you have no idea what you're doing. The throne isn't a prize, it's a trap, and you have just stepped into it. The golden cage of your childhood has just become a golden prison, and you have no idea how to escape. You've done it. You've been declared emperor, a title that at 17 years old must feel less like a victory and more like a cruel joke. The world bows before you. The Roman Senate heaps you with honors, and the Praetorian Guard, the most feared military force in the empire, pledges their loyalty, but none of it feels real. It feels like a stage play, and you are the reluctant actor forced into the lead role. Your every move, every word, every gesture is being watched. Not by a loving audience, but by a hungry, cynical mob of power brokers. And you know, deep in your gut, that they're all just waiting for you to fail. The power is not yours. Not really. It's a phantom limb, an illusion. The real power is in the hands of three people: your mother, Agrippina, your tutor, the philosopher Seneca, and the Praetorian prefect, Sextus Afranius Burrus. They are the ones who rule Rome. You are just the face of their rule. A pretty boy with a famous name. They make the decisions. They write the speeches. They manage the day-to-day affairs of the empire. You are the boy emperor. And you are a puppet. Your mother, Agrippina, is the most terrifying of the three. She sits in on Senate meetings, a blatant violation of Roman custom, and she is openly hostile to anyone who challenges her authority. She has poisoned your great-uncle Claudius to get you on the throne, and she has murdered countless others to clear the way. You know she is capable of anything, and you live in constant fear of her. She's the one who controls your life, who tells you what to do, who you can and cannot see. She is a smothering, suffocating presence, a constant reminder that you are not truly in charge. You desperately want to be free of her, but you are also terrified of what she would do if you were Seneca. Your tutor is a different kind of master. He is a brilliant philosopher, a man of letters, and a master of rhetoric. He teaches you how to speak, how to write, how to appear wise and benevolent. He is the one who crafts your early speeches, speeches that are full of promises of a new, more just Rome. He is your public image, the man who is trying to make you into a good emperor. But you are a child, and you don't care about justice or good governance. You care about music, poetry, and chariot racing. You are a boy trapped in a man's job, and Seneca is the man who is trying to force you into a mold you don't fit. And then there's Burrus. the Praetorian prefect, he is the man who controls the military. The man who could. With a word. Have you killed and replaced? He is a pragmatic, no-nonsense soldier who has no time for your childish whims. He is a constant, unblinking presence. A man who watches you with a cold, professional eye. You know that as long as you do what you are told. He will protect you, but you also know that if you step out of line, if you try to assert your own will, he will not hesitate to use his power against you. He is your silent, ever-present bodyguard. But he is also your jailer, your early reign. The first few years is considered a golden age. You lower taxes. You give the Senate more power. You listen to the advice of your counselors. You are, in all appearances, a good and benevolent ruler. But this isn't you. This is the work of Seneca and Burrus. A carefully crafted performance designed to make the Roman people and the Senate happy. You are just a child playing a role, and you hate it. You hate the speeches, you hate the ceremonies. You hate the constant pretense of wisdom and power. You want to be a poet. You want to be a musician. You want to be an actor. You want to be anything but the boy emperor of Rome. A little known and rather ironic fact is that while Nero's early reign was praised by historians as a period of good governance, the emperor himself was completely disengaged. He was more interested in his artistic pursuits, a fascination that would later define his reign, than in the day-to-day running of the empire. He was a boy playing with a lute while the men around him were running the most powerful empire the world had ever seen. Historians still debate the true nature of Nero's relationship with his mother. Seneca and Burrus. Were they truly a triumvirate? A group of powerful people working together to control the young emperor? Or were they constantly vying for power, each trying to get the upper hand? The truth is likely that they were united in their goal to control Nero, but they were also rivals, each trying to secure their own position and their own power. And you, the boy emperor, were the prize they were all fighting over, a prize you desperately wanted to be rid of. Your misery is a slow, simmering pot of resentment. You resent your mother for controlling you. You resent Seneca for making you a puppet. And you resent Burrus for holding the sword over your head. You are a man with the power to command legions, to declare war, to build cities. But you are a man with no power over his own life. You are the emperor of Rome, and you are trapped. And the longer you are trapped, the more you start to wonder what would happen if you were to break free. To seize the power that is rightfully yours, you start to wonder what it would feel like to be a man, not a puppet. And that thought, that dangerous, intoxicating thought, is the first step on your long, bloody road to tyranny. The years drag on, and the simmering resentment you feel for your masters, your mother Agrippina, your tutor Seneca, and your prefect Burrus begins to boil over. You are no longer a child. You are a young man. A man who has tasted the forbidden fruits of power. And you find that you have a taste for them. Your first act of defiance is small, almost imperceptible. You begin to ignore your mother's advice. You stop letting her sit in on your Senate meetings. You start making your own decisions. Small, insignificant ones at first, but each small act of defiance is a step toward a much larger, much more dangerous freedom. Your mother, Agrippina, sees this and she is not happy. She's a tiger who sees her cub trying to leave the den, and she will not let you go easily. She begins to use the one weapon she has left her son, Britannicus. Britannicus is the son of the previous emperor, Claudius, and he has a claim to the throne that is just as legitimate as yours, if not more so. Agrippina begins to openly favor him, to praise him in front of you, to remind you that your position is not as secure as you think it is. This is a cruel and calculated move, a psychological attack designed to bring you back into line. But it has the opposite effect. It pushes you further away, and it plants a dangerous idea in your head. You begin to plot. You're not a military commander. You're not a master of political intrigue. You're just a young man who is tired of being a puppet. You begin to seek out new allies, people who are tired of your mother's overbearing presence. People who see you not as a child, but as an opportunity. You find a new mistress, a woman named Acti, who is a former slave. This is a deliberate act of rebellion. Your mother would never approve of a relationship with a woman of such low status. But you don't care. Acti is kind to you. She sees you for who you are, not for who you are supposed to be. And she is not your mother. The power struggle reaches its climax at a banquet. Britannicus, your stepbrother and your mother's chosen pawn, is drinking wine. Suddenly, he collapses. He is dead. He has been poisoned. You are there. You see it happen. You act surprised. You act sad. You pretend to be shocked. But you know, deep in your heart, that this was your doing. This was your first murder. Your first taste of absolute power. And it feels exhilarating. You have finally done something that your mother, your tutors, your prefects, none of them could have predicted. You have asserted your will in the most brutal, final way possible. A little known but chilling detail is that the poison was said to have been administered by a trusted taster. And the drink was deliberately served hot, to prevent the taster from noticing the poison. When Britannicus complained that the wine was too hot, it was cooled with water, into which the poison had been surreptitiously slipped. It was a cold, calculated murder, a sign of your growing ruthlessness. Historians still debate the true level of your involvement. Were you the mastermind? The cold-blooded killer? Or were you a young man who was simply manipulated by a power-hungry courtier? The truth is that you were likely a bit of both. You were a pawn who learned how to play the game, a victim who became a perpetrator. You were a young man who was tired of being pushed around, and you took the most extreme, most violent step imaginable to assert your independence. After the death of Britannicus, your mother, Agrippina, is furious. She knows you did it, and she begins to openly threaten you. She reminds you of your debt to her, of the sacrifices she made to put you on the throne. She threatens to expose you, to tell the Senate and the Roman people what you have done. She is a cornered animal, and she is at her most dangerous. But you are a new man now. You are no longer the frightened boy who was terrified of her. You are the Emperor of Rome, and you have learned that the best way to deal with your enemies is to get rid of them. You have a brief moment of hope. Your advisors, Seneca and Burrus, a power couple of control if there ever was one, are still with you. They advise you to be cautious, to be smart, to not act rashly, but their advice, once a source of comfort, is now a source of resentment. They are still trying to control you, to keep you in their golden cage. And you are tired of the cage. You are tired of the strings. You are tired of being a puppet. You want to be the one who pulls the strings. And the first string you will pull is the one that leads to your mother. The boy you were is gone, and the monster you will become has just begun to stir. The taste of absolute power, the cold thrill of having a life in your hands, has changed you. The timid boy who feared his mother is gone, replaced by a young emperor who is beginning to see the world as a stage for his own desires. You've tasted blood with the death of Britannicus, and now you're beginning to crave it. Your ambition is no longer just about survival. It's about control, about getting rid of anyone who stands in the way of your true passion art. You have a secret life, a life you have to hide from your political masters. You are a poet, a musician, a man who loves the sound of his own voice and the music of his own lyre. You believe you are a genius, a divine artist, a new Apollo. You spend hours writing verses, composing songs and practicing your singing. You dream of standing on a stage, a simple actor in a simple tunic, performing for the common people of Rome. This is your true identity, the person you want to be. But you are the emperor, and the emperor is not an actor. The emperor is a god on earth, a military leader, a political figurehead. The two roles are a constant source of conflict, a battle raging inside your own mind, and it's a battle you are beginning to lose. The more you embrace your artistic side, the more you resent the people who try to hold you back. Your mother, Agrippina, scoffs at your artistic pursuits, calling them unseemly for a Roman noble. Seneca, your tutor, tries to guide your artistic endeavors towards more dignified, more Roman subjects. Burrus, the Praetorian prefect, watches you with a cold, professional eye, a man who sees no value in art, only in military strength. They are all, in their own way, trying to crush the artist inside you, and you, with your newfound taste for absolute power, are not going to let them. You have a new wife now, a woman named Poppaea Sabina. She is beautiful, ambitious, and cunning. She is not like your mother. She encourages your artistic pursuits. She tells you that you are a genius, a man who is not just an emperor, but a true artist. She whispers in your ear, telling you that your mother is a threat, that your political masters are holding you back, that your destiny is not just to rule Rome, but to be its greatest poet, its greatest musician, its greatest actor. She is your confidant, your lover, and your most dangerous ally. The conflict with your mother reaches its final, inevitable conclusion. She has a ship built for you, a marvel of Roman engineering, a ship with a retractable cabin, a mechanism that is supposed to crush you when you are on board. You, however, are a suspicious man. You have seen her handiwork with Britannicus, and you do not trust her. You discover the plot, and you realize, with a cold, chilling clarity, that the only way to be free of her is to kill her. You have her put on the ship, but you are not on board with her. The ship is rigged, the mechanism is triggered. But it fails, she is just wounded. She is a woman who, it seems, is as hard to kill as you are. She swims to shore, a desperate, defiant woman, a mother who refuses to die at the hands of her own son. But you are not a man who gives up easily. You send your men to her. They find her, and with a cold, professional indifference, they kill her. She is dead. The woman who gave birth to you, the woman who put you on the throne, the woman you have feared and resented your entire life, is gone. A little known but poignant detail of this story is that when your mother's body was found, she allegedly bared her belly and said, "Strike here," indicating the womb that had borne such a monster. It was a final, tragic act of defiance, a mother's last word to the son who had killed her. Historians still debate the extent to which Poppaea influenced this decision. Was she the evil mastermind? The woman who poisoned your mind against your mother? Or was she simply an ambitious courtier who was a convenient scapegoat for your own growing ruthlessness? The truth is likely that she was both. She was the catalyst, the spark that lit the fire, but the fire, the desire to be free, the willingness to kill to achieve that freedom, was all your own. You are now truly free. Seneca and Burrus, your former masters, are now just advisors. They are men who are old and tired, men who have seen what you are capable of. They are men who know that to cross you is to invite a swift and brutal end. And you, the artist, the poet, the musician, the actor, are finally free to be yourself. But the freedom comes at a terrible price. You are now a matricide, a killer of your own mother. You have crossed a line from which there is no return. And you are, in the end, still utterly, profoundly miserable. Your art, the thing you have killed for, will never be enough to fill the void inside you. With your mother, Agrippina, finally out of the way, you are a man unleashed. But the freedom you fought and killed for is not the blissful artistic existence you imagined. It is a lonely, paranoid, and terrifying one. You've killed your mother, the person who gave you life, and the weight of that act hangs over you like a shroud. You are no longer just an emperor, you are a matricide, a man who has broken the most sacred of all Roman laws. The ghosts of your victims, your stepbrother Britannicus, and now your mother haunt your dreams, and the whispers of your courtiers haunt your waking hours. The paranoia begins to set in. If your own mother could try to kill you, who else could you begin to suspect? Everyone. You see plots in every shadow, conspiracies in every whispered conversation. You have spies everywhere, men who report to you on the slightest sign of disloyalty. Your court, once a vibrant and bustling place, becomes a silent, terrifying labyrinth of suspicion. No one trusts anyone. And you, the emperor, the man who is supposed to be the most secure of all, are the most paranoid of them all. This paranoia begins to manifest in your behavior. You start to see yourself not as a mere mortal, but as a god. You believe your artistic genius is a divine gift, a sign that you are special, a man chosen by the heavens to rule Rome and to create its most beautiful art. You begin to hold private concerts in your palace, forcing the most influential people in Rome to attend. They sit there, bored and uncomfortable, listening to you sing your terrible poetry and play your mediocre lyre. But they cannot leave. To leave is to show disrespect. To show disrespect is to invite your wrath, and your wrath, as they have learned, is a terrible thing. Your artistic ambitions, once a private passion, are now a public spectacle, a cruel and twisted form of entertainment. You force senators, men of ancient and noble families, to perform in your plays. You force them to sing, to dance, to act in plays that you yourself wrote. It is a humiliating, degrading experience for them, a constant reminder of your absolute power. This isn't just a boy's whim. It's a calculated act of cruelty, a way to show them that you are the master, and they are nothing but your puppets. A little known but fascinating detail of this period is the sheer number of sycophants who surrounded you. Men would pretend to be enchanted by your music, to weep at your poetry, to faint in ecstasy at the sound of your voice. They knew it was a lie. You knew it was a lie. But it was a lie that was necessary for their survival. The world of Nero's court was a world of forced praise, a world where the only way to live was to lie to your emperor. Historians still debate the true nature of Nero's artistic talent. Was he a true genius? A misunderstood artist who was trapped in a political role? Or was he a talentless amateur who was simply surrounded by people who were too afraid to tell him the truth? The truth is likely that he was somewhere in the middle. He was probably not a genius, but he was also not terrible. He was a man with a passion for art, a passion that was twisted and corrupted by the absolute power he held. The tragedy of Nero is not that he was a bad emperor. It's that he was a mediocre artist who had the power to force the world to pretend he was a great one. Your paranoia and your artistic ambitions begin to clash with your political masters. Seneca and Burrus, your former tutors, are now old and tired men. They see the monster you are becoming, and they are terrified. They try to guide you, to rein you in, to remind you of your duties as an emperor, but you no longer listen. You see them as obstacles, as men who are trying to hold you back from your true destiny, and you begin to plot their downfall, just as you plotted the downfall of your mother. The boy who was controlled by others is gone. The man you are now is a man who controls everyone, a man who is willing to kill to protect his own fragile ego. The life you've built, a fragile web of paranoia and artistic pretension, is about to be shattered by an event you had nothing to do with. One hot, dry night in July, a fire breaks out in the Circus Maximus, Rome's massive chariot racing stadium. At first, it's just another fire, a common occurrence in a city of tightly packed wooden buildings. But this fire is different. The wind is strong, the air is dry, and the fire begins to spread, jumping from building to building, devouring everything in its path. You, the emperor, are away, in the coastal town of Antium, a brief escape from the suffocating politics of Rome. But you are about to be pulled back into the heart of the inferno. You rush back to the city. But it's too late. The fire is a living, breathing monster, a roaring, consuming beast that has already destroyed a massive portion of Rome. The streets are a chaotic mess of fleeing citizens, screaming in terror, their faces streaked with soot and tears. You see the destruction, you see the suffering, and you are horrified. But this isn't the horror of a leader seeing his city burn. It's the horror of an artist seeing a canvas he wants to paint on, a stage he wants to rebuild, being destroyed by a force he can't control. The popular story, the one that will haunt your name for eternity, is that you stood on a rooftop, playing your lyre and singing a poem about the burning of Troy. Historians still debate whether this actually happened. It is likely a later invention, a piece of propaganda designed to paint you as a heartless monster. But the fact that people believed it, that the story resonated so deeply with the Roman public, is a testament to the kind of man you had become. You were seen as a man who cared more about his art than about the lives of his people. A man who saw the destruction of Rome not as a tragedy, but as a spectacle. A less known but telling fact is that you did try to help. You opened your own palace gardens to the homeless. You distributed food and water, and you organized fire brigades to fight the flames. But your efforts were seen as too little, too late. The damage was immense. The suffering was profound, and the Roman people were looking for someone to blame. And you, the man who had already killed his mother, the man who was more interested in his lyre than in his people, were the perfect scapegoat. The rumors begin to fly. The Whisper campaign starts with a simple question: who did this? And the answer, a terrifying and utterly believable one, is you. People whisper that you started the fire yourself, that you wanted to clear out the old city to build a new one, a new Rome that would be a monument to your greatness. They say that you, the mad artist, wanted to watch your greatest canvas burn, a spectacle that would inspire your poetry for years to come. The truth is that the fire was likely an accident, a tragic coincidence of a hot, dry summer in a city built of wood. But the truth doesn't matter. What matters is the story. And the story is that you are a monster. Historians still debate the true cause of the Great Fire of Rome. Was it an accident? Was it arson by you? Or was it arson by a small, persecuted religious sect that you later blamed? The truth is, we will likely never know for sure. But the fact that you, the emperor, were the main suspect, and the man who was most blamed, is a testament to the kind of ruler you had become. You were not a beloved leader. You were a feared tyrant, a man whose ambition and cruelty had alienated everyone around you. The fire is a turning point. It is the moment when the public, the people you were supposed to protect, turn against you, and you, with your fragile ego and your desperate need for validation. Respond in the only way you know how, with cruelty and violence. You need a scapegoat, a group to blame for the fire, a group to distract the public's rage, and you find one in a small, obscure religious sect that is gaining a foothold in Rome, the Christians. The persecution of the Christians, the brutal, public, and utterly senseless murders that you orchestrate, is not an act of religious piety. It's an act of political desperation, a last-ditch effort to save your own skin. The Great Fire of Rome is a tragedy, but the cruelty you inflict in its aftermath is the beginning of the end of your reign. The fire, that great roaring beast that devoured half of Rome, has finally died down, leaving behind a smoldering, black wasteland of ash and rubble. The Roman people are homeless, hungry, and terrified. But you, the emperor, are not a man of sentiment. You are a man of vision. You see not a tragedy, but an opportunity. You see a chance to build a new Rome, a city worthy of your name, a city that will be a monument to your genius. And on the chart, empty ground where the city once stood. You begin to build your masterpiece, the Domus Aurea, the Golden House. This isn't just a palace. It's a city within a city, a sprawling, lavish complex that will cover 100 acres of prime Roman real estate. You order the finest architects, the most skilled artisans, the most famous painters to come to Rome and build your dream. There are frescoes on every wall, marble statues in every hall, and a private lake in the middle of a vast park. The walls of your dining room are inlaid with mother of pearl, and the ceiling has a mechanism that sprays flowers and perfumes on your guests. There is a huge statue of yourself, a colossus at the entrance, 100 feet tall, a bronze monument to your own ego. This is your artistic vision come to life, a testament to your genius. But it is also a slap in the face to the Roman people. They are living in makeshift tents, eating meager rations, and mourning their dead. And you, the man they blame for the fire, are building a palace of unimaginable luxury and extravagance. The people of Rome, once a loyal and devoted public, now see you as a heartless, self-serving tyrant. They mutter in the streets that the people were living in hovels, but he was building his palace. The Golden House is a beautiful, magnificent, and utterly tone-deaf act of self-indulgence. A little-known but fascinating detail of the Domus Aurea is the sheer engineering genius behind it. The main dining room, for example, had a rotating ceiling, a circular room that spun to mimic the movements of the heavens. It was a marvel of engineering, a testament to the fact that you, the emperor, had an entire empire's resources at your disposal. This wasn't just a house, it was a theme park, an artistic and engineering marvel, a symbol of your power and your complete detachment from reality. Historians still debate the true artistic and architectural legacy of the Domus Aurea. Was it a groundbreaking work of art? A new form of Roman architecture that would influence builders for centuries to come? Or was it a garish, self-serving monument to a madman's ego? The truth is that it was both. It was a groundbreaking work of architecture, a beautiful and innovative building, but it was also a political disaster, a cruel and insensitive act that alienated you from the very people you were supposed to rule. Your life is a constant series of contradictions. You are a man who loves art, a man who wants to be remembered as a great artist, but you are a man whose art is paid for with the suffering of his own people. You are a man who wants to be loved, but you are a man whose actions make him a figure of hate. You are a man who is a god on earth, but you are also a man who is utterly alone. The Domus Aurea, your masterpiece, is a beautiful, magnificent prison, a testament to the fact that you, the most powerful man in the world, are a lonely, miserable, and profoundly self-deluded man. The years have passed, and the man who was once the boy emperor is now a middle-aged tyrant, a man whose every whim is law and whose every desire is met with ruthless efficiency. But your reign, once a period of hope and good governance, is now teetering on the edge of a precipice. The Golden House, your magnificent artistic statement, has alienated the people of Rome. The persecution of the Christians, a brutal attempt to divert public rage, has only hardened the public's opinion of you, and the men who once controlled you, your mother, Agrippina, your tutor, Seneca, and your prefect. Burrus are all gone, either by your own hand or by the hand of time, and their absence has left a void in your life, a void you filled with more cruelty, more paranoia, and more extravagance. The Roman elite, the senators and the patricians who once vied for your favor, are now terrified of you. They've seen what you did to your mother. They've seen what you did to the Christians. And they've seen what you did to anyone who dared to question your artistic genius. The famous story of your forced performances, the way you would lock the doors of your theater so that no one could escape, is a perfect microcosm of your reign. You were a man who had to force people to love him, a man who had to force people to admire his art. And that force, that brutal, unyielding force, is the only thing you have left. The money, the immense wealth of the Roman Empire, is no longer enough to support your lavish lifestyle. You've drained the treasury with your building projects, your festivals, and your lavish gifts to your favorites. To compensate, you've begun to devalue the currency, a common practice for Roman emperors, but one that would have a devastating effect on the Roman economy. You also begin a series of show trials, a way to confiscate the wealth of the Roman elite. You accuse them of treason, of conspiracy, of plotting against you. The charges are flimsy, the evidence is fabricated, but the outcome is always the same: they are found guilty. They are executed, and their fortunes are seized by the state. You are a man who has lost the trust of his people, and you are now using that distrust to fuel your own extravagance. A little known and rather ironic fact is that while you were seen as an artistic genius, your financial policies were disastrous. Your constant need for money, your ruthless confiscation of wealth, and your devaluation of the currency all contributed to a deep economic instability that would plague the Roman Empire for years to come. Your reign was a perfect example of a man who was great at the symbolic, but terrible at the practical. Historians still debate the true level of your insanity. Was it a genuine, clinical madness, a product of your traumatic childhood and the immense power you held? Or was it a calculated, brutal form of tyranny? A man who was simply so self-absorbed and so cruel that he appeared to be insane. The truth is that it was likely both. You were a man who was psychologically broken from a young age. A man who was surrounded by a court that was too afraid to tell him the truth. And the result was a form of tyranny that was both theatrical and terrifying. Your fall from grace is no longer a slow, gradual process. It is a landslide, a sudden, violent descent. The conspiracies against you, the ones you were so paranoid about, are no longer just figments of your imagination. They are real. The senators, the patricians, the very men who once bowed before you, are now plotting your downfall. And the final, fatal blow comes from the most unexpected of places: the Roman army, the legions in Gaul, in Spain, in Britain, are no longer loyal to you. They are loyal to their generals, to the men who lead them in battle. And those generals, ambitious and powerful men in their own right, are now marching on Rome. The emperor, who saw himself as a god, is about to be brought down by the very military machine that he was supposed to command. Your misery is no longer just a private, psychological torment. It is a public, political, and very, very dangerous reality. The whispers of discontent have turned into a roar. The legions in Gaul, led by the governor Gaius Julius Vindex, have rebelled. This isn't a small, local insurrection. It's a full-blown military coup. They don't want to overthrow the empire, they just want to overthrow you. And they are marching on Rome. The senators, the men you've humiliated and terrorized for years, see this as their chance. They've been waiting for this moment, a chance to get rid of the mad artist who has run their world into the ground. They declare you a public enemy, a hostis publicus, a man who is no longer the emperor, but a criminal. The terror you feel is a cold, all-consuming fear. Your guards, the praetorians who swore to protect you, are no longer loyal. Their prefect, a man named Nymphidius Sabinus, has been bought off by your enemies. He has promised them a hefty sum of money if they will abandon you. And they have. Your palace, once a fortress, is now a prison. The doors are locked. The guards are gone. And you are alone. A trapped animal with the hunters closing in. You try to escape. You run to the home of a freedman, a former slave named Phaon, a man who still has a small, pathetic shred of loyalty to you. He has a small villa outside of Rome, and you go there, a disgraced emperor running for his life. You are no longer surrounded by luxury and opulence. You are in a small, cramped room, with a single bed and a dirty floor. The man who once lived in the Golden House is now living in a hovel, a cruel and fitting end to a life of extravagance. You hear the soldiers coming. You hear their footsteps, their shouts, their heavy armor clanking against the stone. You know this is the end. You have a few loyal men with you, a few last vestiges of your power, and they tell you that you must die with dignity. But dignity is a luxury you have long since lost. You are a coward, a terrified man, a man who is more afraid of death than he is of dishonor. You try to write a suicide note, but your hand shakes too much to hold the pen. You try to kill yourself, but you are too afraid. You are a man who is the emperor of Rome, but you are a man who is too weak to end his own life. A little known, but poignant detail of this story is that your final words, as recorded by the historian Suetonius, were qualis artifex pareo, which translates to what an artist dies in me. It was a final, desperate act of self-delusion. A man who was so disconnected from reality that he saw his own death not as the end of a tyrannical reign, but as the death of a great artist. It was a final, theatrical performance, a last act of a life that was a constant. Tragic play. Historians still debate the true level of your artistic talent. But in the end, it doesn't matter. You were not a great artist. You were a bad emperor. Your legacy is not one of beautiful poetry or magnificent songs. It is one of murder, of tyranny, of a city that was burned to the ground, and of an empire that was left in ruins. You were a man who wanted to be a hero, but you were a man who became a villain. You were a man who wanted to be an artist, but you were a man who became a monster. And now, in the final, dark moments of your life, you are a man who is utterly alone. The footsteps of the soldiers are getting closer. You can hear their voices now, cold and determined. The men you've humiliated, the men you've terrorized, the men you've betrayed, they are coming for you. And you, the man who once had the power of life and death over 1 million people, are now just a cornered animal, a man with nowhere left to run. Your bodyguards, the few who remained, have fled. The freedman Phaon, your last vestige of loyalty, has gone to meet the soldiers, to beg for your life. A desperate and futile act, and you are alone? Utterly, profoundly alone. You try to prepare yourself. You have a few daggers, but you are too afraid to use them. You try to write one last poem, one last verse that will immortalize your name. But the words won't come. You are a man whose greatest gift, his art, has abandoned him in his final moments. The irony of it all is a cold, bitter taste in your mouth. You, the great artist, are dying a pathetic, cowardly death. The end is a moment of frantic, clumsy violence. You hear the soldiers at the door? You are a man with no dignity left, a man who is too afraid to die. One of your remaining freedmen, a loyal servant named Epaphroditus, helps you. He holds a dagger for you, and with a final, desperate cry, you plunge it into your throat. Your life, a miserable, terrifying, and ultimately tragic life, is over. The final act of a life that was a constant. Theatrical performance is over. You, the man who wanted to be a god, are dead. You, the man who wanted to be a great artist, are a footnote in the history of a great empire. You, the man who wanted to be loved, are a figure of hate. Your body, the body of the last Julio Claudian emperor, is buried in the family tomb. A quiet, unceremonious end for a man who lived and died in a storm of noise and violence. A little known but poignant detail of your death is that the soldiers who found you were not hostile. They were a small contingent of the Praetorian Guard, a group that had come to arrest you, not to kill you. They were a final. Tragic irony in a life full of them? You. The man who had been so paranoid about betrayal were betrayed by everyone. But in the end, the men who came for you were not your killers. You were your own killer. A final, self-destructive act in a life of self-destruction. Historians still debate the true nature of your death. Was it a suicide? A final act of a man who was pushed to the edge, or was it an assisted suicide? A tragic act of a man who was too weak to kill himself. The truth is that it was both. You were a man who was pushed to the brink by his own actions. A man who was so terrified of the world that he was willing to kill himself to escape it. Your misery, a slow, simmering pot of fear and paranoia, finally boiled over, and it consumed you. The man who had the world at his feet, but a man who was, in the end, just a lonely, terrified boy. Now, as the long, dark shadow of the Roman Empire recedes, and the sound of the marching legions fades into the distance, you can finally, truly, rest. The golden halls of the Domus Aurea have turned to a gentle scent of pine, and the cold marble of your palace has been replaced by the soft warmth of your blankets. The weight of your crown is gone, and the constant hum of paranoia has finally fallen silent. The dreams of power, of murder, of the crushing responsibility of an empire, they are just dreams now. They are a story you have told, a story you have heard, a story that is no longer your own. The night is quiet, and the world is still. The emperor's long, miserable journey is over, and you are finally at peace.